Hey there YouTube. It's Leo Alderpold, believe it or not. Yep, I've had some spring cleaning from the neck up. Well, I'm hoping I can record this video without getting disturbed. I actually just recorded one a bit further down the hill because I thought there'd be a number of people up here where I am. But I seem to be okay at the moment. I'm surrounded by wild ponies and sheep. There's some people on one of the tours a little bit further up behind me, but they're quite a way away, so I might get away with doing this undisturbed, you never know. I'm smoking some black frigate in the Beaulieu Bulldog, you're all familiar with. Somebody asked me to do a review of this tobacco, but as you know, I don't really do tobacco reviews, so what I can tell you is it's a very interesting Latakia mix with rum or whiskey or something. Rum, I think. And it's very good indeed. Especially up here where I am. Outdoors. Now I'm actually on Dartmoor. I'm actually sited just up the hill from where I did the video from Wistman's Wood. So I'm actually sitting on one of the tors above Wistman's Wood. And I've been wanting to do this video for a little while. So this is the second in the series on Dartmoor. I'm going to show you around real quick. You can see behind me, there's another tor there. I'm standing on one, as you can see. It's this series of boulders. There's some wild ponies behind me. And you can see the landscape is pretty bleak. It's pretty barren and bleak and open and exposed. I'm very lucky today because the weather's actually on my side. It's actually really very mild, which is surprising. Because it's never mild up here, really. Usually the wind's coming howling across the openness of this landscape, and the rain's lashing sideways, and it's a pretty bleak and miserable, if you can call it that, place to be. But I like it. So what I'm actually standing on is granite, and we call these tors around here. And the way that these things have been formed is really interesting, because here on Dartmoor the bedrock is predominantly this granite. Now there are other kinds of stone, sandstone, shales, that sort of thing. I'll set you back down here against my rucksack again. But the main stone that forms, the main bedrock that forms the plateau of Dartmoor where I am, is granite. And what's really interesting about this is granite is an igneous rock, which means it was formed from magma. It's igneous is from fire. It means it's been formed by fire. So at one point the rock that I'm sitting on was volcanic magma, and what happened during the Carboniferous period, which was 360 million years ago, there was the wonderfully entitled geological phenomenon known as the Variscan orogeny, which I just think is fantastic. It sounds a bit kinky. I'm sitting on an erogenous zone. So the bedrock that I'm actually sitting on was formed during a geological event known as an orogeny. And what an orogeny is a mountain building event. So what happened at the time was the continent of what was then Gondwana land, and a continent we call Laurussia, or Euramerica is another another word for it, collided to form the supercontinent of Pangaea, which you may have heard of. So Gondwanaland and Laurussia, these two massive continents, collided to form the supercontinent of Pangaea. Now, what happened at that point where those two tectonic plates collided, you had this massive mountain chain evolve. And obviously tectonic plates colliding is always associated with volcanic activity. Anybody who lives in Hawaii will know that, or anywhere else there's volcanoes for that matter, or earthquakes. But a chain of mountains was formed by the collision of those two continents, which resulted in a mountain chain which covered 1/3 of the way around the globe. And actually the rock that I'm sitting on, the granite that I'm sitting on, is a remnant of that mountain range, and it's identical in its structure and composition to the rock that makes up the Harz Mountains of Germany, mountains again in Portugal, Spain, Belarusia, a whole range of different places across the continent that we now know as Europe, and also as far away as Canada. And actually about the same time that this mountain chain was formed, which later resulted in the landscape here of Dartmoor, there was also the events that gave rise to the Appalachian mountain chain and things like that. So there's a lot of things all working together here. But so what then occurred was granite, being a much harder stone, sort of formed as these towers, these igneous intrusions they're called, and over the period of the last 300 million years, as well, countless geological processes, countless ice ages and glaciers have worn away at the landscape that we're sitting in. This really hard granite has remained as these towers, or as we call them, tors, in the landscape, like the one I'm sitting on and the ones behind me here. So this is actually the remnant of these volcanic intrusions, and then all the lower ground there will have been of a softer stone that will have been worn away by the natural processes of geological erosion and so on. So it's quite fascinating to think that, you know, I'm actually sitting on a 350 million year old lava bed here. Now, show you around again a little bit, but you can see the landscape's really bleak, really bleak and barren. And actually 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, and longer than that, this was inhabited, this area, very heavily so. Actually, the range of archaeological sites around this national park of Dartmoor is actually quite astounding. There are hundreds of them, because 3,000 years ago the climate was actually much warmer than it is now, and believe it or not, this barren landscape that I'm standing in was quite fertile and quite a nice, inviting place to be. So people used to live here and farmed here, and I think in future videos I'll take you to some of the ancient sites that are around here, the remnants of people that lived here 3,000-4,000 years ago, or during the Bronze Era. I can't believe how lucky I am with the weather. It's incredible. I've never known it to be so clement up here. But lucky for you guys, and the tor that I'm sitting on currently isn't overrun with people, which is also awesome, because it means I get to do your video where I wanted to, and not from where I recorded it earlier on further down the hill where there were fewer people. But Nowadays, of course, the landscape of Dartmoor it's a national park. It covers 365 square kilometres. I think it's kilometres. May even be miles, I'm not entirely sure. Now, you may have heard over that way the sound of artillery fire, and that's because, being the bleak and barren place that it is, the army train up here. So there are a few places, a few areas of the moor where you can't go when there are red flags flying, because there's the army on manoeuvres, and the special forces train here, and all sorts of other things. But what I think I can hear at the moment behind me from a few miles in that direction is artillery fire. There you go, I'll give you a better view. How's that? Yeah. It's quite an interesting juxtaposition, the sound of the artillery fire from over there with the sound that I'm hearing from over here, which are skylarks, because they love this open grassy ground. They nest on the grass. They're a ground nesting bird, and as you approach their nest from quite some way away, they'll go straight up in the air and they'll sing this beautiful song that to me is always very symbolic of the spring and the early summer. Because where I spent my teenage years on the South Downs of England, skylarks are very common, and it was one of the quintessential sounds of my rambles around the South Downs Way. Did you hear that? I'll find out later when I upload this video. So I'll give you another quick look around before I go. So just down the hill there is the Wisman's Wood, where I did that video a while ago. And all along this this chain of hills that I'm standing on at the moment, we've got these tors, like that one behind me. There's another one. It's probably not going to show up very clearly on the video, but beyond that, just these regular rocky peaks. So there you go, guys. I hope you're all doing well. I'll record another few of these from here in Dartmoor. But until the next time, I'll see you all again real soon. Take care.